Welcome to Locker Room, everybody. I'm your host, Justin Lindler, and this week I am joined by a returning Eli Brandon for the first time this season, Forrest Tucker. Thank you guys for joining me this week. Let's get right into it. The NFL trade deadline ended this past week. Several trades were made. They made an impact immediately. Forrest, we'll start with you. What trades did you like? Did you not like? What did you think?
I thought that Philly's move for Golden Tate was good. They're a team that's coming off the bye, and Carson Wentz and Golden Tate immediately after the trade were getting into it on Twitter, saying that they were ready to work together, happy to work together. Mm-hmm. That is great. Chemistry going straight away. So I think the bye week gave them great time to work together. That's going to be a matchup or a match to look at just going forward. We'll see how Golden Tate and Carson Wentz connect when they play the Cowboys this weekend.
I think that the trades on the offensive end were the biggest difference this week, or during the trade deadline, because the wide receivers are going to make the biggest difference for the teams because they were struggling on offense. For Philadelphia, I think that Golden Tate was a big pickup, but they already had a lot of offensive weapons. They had Aguilar, they had Alshon Jeffrey, they had Zach Ertz. So the trade I liked the most was Demaryius Thomas. He came into a Houston team that had really one option on offense, and that was DeAndre Hopkins, and I think he'll take a lot of the burden off of him to score points for that Houston offense. And I also think that should open up the box for them because they can't just double-team DeAndre Hopkins and stack the box to keep Deshaun Watson in it. So I think he can have more room to scramble, and I think he'll have more options to throw the ball to. So I think that'll help Houston's offense in a big way.
Yeah, Demaryius Thomas, 3 for 3, no touchdown though in his debut with the Texans. I think if the Texans want to make a run for the playoffs, they're going to need Thomas and Hopkins in tandem with that receiving core to do well.
Having time for Thomas and Deshaun Watson to be able to gel and get a relationship on the field is going to be a big thing too, but they're going to not have as much time as they would have if he'd have been on the team the whole season. So I think that's going to be a big developing story over the next few weeks to see how well they work together.
Yeah, something that happened after the trade deadline. Dez Bryant, the free agent, was picked up by the New Orleans Saints. Hasn't played since last year with the Dallas Cowboys. Eli, I'll start with you. What do you think about this signing for the Saints and Dez Bryant?
Well, there's a reason he wasn't signed for the last however many weeks that he was sitting on the bench or sitting at home waiting for someone to pick up the phone. So I don't know how big of a concern that's going to be for most teams. I think the Saints had the opportunity to take a risk on a receiver like Dez because the upside's big enough for them to where if he's actually playing at a high enough level like he did for the Cowboys a few years ago, that could be the boost. They could put them to the Super Bowl and to give them an opportunity to possibly win it. And if he's not good, they're still scoring like 30-something points a game. So it's okay if he doesn't work out.
Forrest?
I think Dez is similar to Wentz and Tate. I think Dez and Breeze are going to be a partnership that doesn't develop right away, but will get better with time. The Saints are definitely a Super Bowl favorite at this point. With Meredith and Ginn on IR, or Ginn, excuse me, he's a big pickup, and I think that all the talk about him being unreliable, being a problem in the locker room is hogwash. Sean Payton is going to square away his football team. He is a great head coach. He's not going to tolerate any nonsense. No. So Dez Bryant's going to have a great year with the Saints. He's back. He's going to do well like he did before. I know his last couple years have not been the best, but I think you see him return to the old Dez Bryant this year with the Saints.
And if any team can handle a locker room problem, it's going to be the Saints. Because if they can get through that bounty scandal where they lost their coach for a year and had all those players suspended, they can handle Dez Bryant. I don't think that'll be as big of an issue.
That team's a strong unit all over in the locker room and on the field, so I don't think they're going to have any problem with Dez at all. I agree with you, Eli.
Yeah, as you mentioned, there's been many weeks since he has been at home, and I'm sure that time away from football might have opened his eyes a little bit and made him realize that he's not all that and he needs to take his opportunity for granted, not take it for granted as much as he used to, and really appreciate being in a playing for a National Football League team.
And he's wanted too. The Saints want him. The Cowboys did not want him when they let him go, or they did not re-sign him. So that's a big confidence booster for anyone. If you're wanted, you're going to definitely play well because you're going to be playing for, all your teammates, your coach, and a franchise that wants you. And I hope the fans accept Dez Bryant in New Orleans.
He's actually playing for a legit NFL quarterback now. That's also going to be a big difference for him.
Yeah, it's not a rookie. It's a seasoned veteran. Drew Brees is 38 years old, plenty of experience, and Eli said it. He's a great quarterback.
Yeah. Well, moving on to another kind of football, the biggest rivalry in soccer in England will be happening on Sunday. It's the Manchester Derby between Manchester and Manchester City. Forrest, we'll start with you on this. What's so special about this game? Who do you like? So on and so forth.
The city of Manchester has always been a working class environment, and so the pride of the people and where they're from is a big deal. But above that and with that, it's definitely pride in their football clubs. So the Manchester Derby is a huge deal in Manchester and in England as well. Usually this game has a little more on the line. This year it's not so much. Usually it's United and City at the top of the table, battling for first and second place, a top 5 spot, Champions League qualification, whatever. This year United is lower in the table. They're coming off a win versus Everton, Bournemouth, and Juventus. That was in the Champions League. So they're trying to get their old wings back. City is just immaculate right now with scoring and offense and defense as well. I think that the game will be played. It doesn't matter what the team's doing right now. They show up for that derby. They show up for the game. So I think it's going to be a tight game. I think United will win in the end.
Eli?
Well, there are going to be billions of eyeballs on this game on Sunday. And that's still kind of a new development because up until around 2009, 2010, this wasn't really that big of a rivalry. It was kind of the big brother beating up on the little brother for about 100 years, and the little brother had absolutely no chance. He'd still win every once in a while, but it didn't really matter. But when Manchester City got their financial takeover and actually began building their team and winning championships, then it actually became one of the biggest rivalries in the world. And I think that's going to be a big part of this game, and also the coaches in this game are going to be a big difference. They have huge personalities. Pep Guardiola's on top of the world. Jose Mourinho went from being on top of the world to falling back down to trying to prove again that he can be one of the best managers in the world. And in games like this, he tends to thrive. Last year, they were down 2-0 at halftime at City. Came back, won 3-2. That was Paul Pogba's best game in a Manchester United uniform. He's going to have another game like that to be able to win. But I think at the form that City's in right now, winning their last 2 games by 5+ goals, I don't know if United's got enough firepower to get the goals to win the game, because with their defense, they're going to concede 2 or 3. And I just don't know if they can score 2 or 3 on a City defense that's going to take possession from them, and a midfield that's going to keep 60 or 70% of the ball for just about the entire game.
The key for Manchester United, if they want to win, is 1, be stout on defense, and 2, they need to. I think that Mourinho teams always rely on the counterattack. If they can do well on the counterattack, then they can score goals. Overall, their offense is not what it used to be when Sir Alex Ferguson was the head coach and the manager. But the deal now is that I think if Mourinho, with up and down season he's had, like Eli mentioned, if he loses this game, he should be sacked. There's no question about it. If he loses this game, which is against top rivals, he should be sacked.
I disagree with that. He's been on great form the past few weeks. He's working his way back towards the top 4. He had Manchester United number 2 in the league last year, and he's winning games on the road against teams like Juventus in the Champions League. United hasn't done that since Sir Alex retired, and I don't know if they ever thought they were going to do it again, to be honest with you, with the way that their team has been playing the past couple of years, almost, 5 years now? I think he's getting them back to what they used to be as being one of the one of the premier clubs in the world. So I think he needs to be given at least a little bit more time. Losing to the best club in the world right now isn't going to be necessarily a sackable offense, especially on the road.
It'll definitely be interesting to see how this game plays out on Sunday.
I'll agree with Eli a bit there. He's changed my mind a bit. Given that Jose Mourinho's had that up and down season, I can understand what you're saying. That if you lose against this team, can you blame him? Not as much. The blame can't be all put on him. So I think that if I'll keep my sack thing, but I'll change the condition here. If they go on a run after they beat Juventus, they're on a high. If they don't perform this current game against City, and then in the future, if it goes down to another dip, you can't take another chance that it's going to get better.
Well, he can't continue to drop points to Leicester and Everton and teams like that. He's going to have to win those games most of the time. I think top 4 is the goal this season. I don't think they can win the league against Liverpool or City this year.
Well, that's all we have time for today. Thank you guys for joining me. I've been Justin Lindler. It's Eli Bryant. It's Forrest Tucker. We'll see you next week with more Locker Room.